And welcome everyone to an NABC chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Colorado head coach Tad Boyle. And coach, as you get toward the end of December, get into obviously the Pac-12. Last year, the Pac-12, you guys have only 2 losses by 6 points or less. You're coming off an unbelievable win in Brooklyn over Miami. I mean, clearly one of the best wins we've seen this season. Where do you assess with where this group is at as you approach the holidays?
Well, Andy, I felt, it's funny, I talked to our team, a week or so before the Miami game, and I really believe this because I said, guys, I felt like we were playing probably 65 to 70% of what our ceiling could be. And I said, that's good news. The bad news is we're 65 or 70%, but the good news is if we play to our capabilities, I think we can beat anybody in our schedule. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about Miami, even though they were up next. But sure enough, we go to Brooklyn and we played not as good as we can play, but we still had 15 turnovers in that game. But we played, closer to 90 to 95% of kind of what our ceiling is, and it just shows you how good we can be when we play like that. Because we beat a really good Miami team. Now, maybe it wasn't their best day. Maybe we had something to do with that. I don't know. But they're a really, really good program. Obviously, Jim Larinaga coming off a Final Four run. It's best win we've had at Colorado in a while. And so it's something we need to build on. And you mentioned, we've still got 2 more games before the holidays. Come back at Pac-12 play after that. So we got to finish strong. You took 1 step forward. We can't take 2 steps back.
What we saw with your roster too is it feels like it's the perfect storm where you got a great group of newcomers and you got veterans that return. You didn't suffer guys getting out. And when you looked at how this roster was going to come together, what did you anticipate the potential of this group could be that I know you haven't met yet?
Yeah, I think we knew this team had a chance to be as good of an offensive team as we've had at Colorado, probably since our first year here when we had, Alec Burks and Corey Higgins and Marcus Relford. We had a really good offensive squad that year. Couldn't get that team to guard, but they could really score the ball. We knew our ceiling was really high offensively. Now, it took us a while to get there. Eddie Lampkin had back surgery in the offseason. He's kind of played himself into shape. He wasn't at his best probably when we played Florida State or even Colorado State, but he really was a presence, I thought, against Miami inside. And so I knew that the ceiling for this team was high, but I did think, like a lot of teams in today's age of, the transfer portal and new guys coming in and some veterans coming back, that it takes sometimes a while to find out who you are. And it takes maybe 9, 10, 11 games which is the non-conference, to figure that out. And we're in the process of that. We're on hopefully the back end of that rather than the middle of it.
I can't remember a time where the league, and at this point I would say 2 down, but I'm not handing it to Arizona, but they are number 1 right now. But is wide open. And in its final year, it's got to give you great optimism that everything's out there. Like it's in front of you guys that you could, I'm not saying you can't win it, but you certainly have everything in place to at least be one of the top 2 teams in this last year of the Pac-12. How do you assess of where this team is in relation to this last year of the Pac-12?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Arizona has really established themselves maybe cut above the rest of us, and their record shows it. But, I think the league is, again, you look at what Oregon's doing and, their record, they've only got 2 losses, but, they've done it without their 2 big guys who, when they come back, they're going to be much, much better. USC obviously just got Bronny James, cleared, and they're in the process of finding themselves. UCLA's young, whole new group that Mick's got. So there's a lot of really talented teams. Washington, obviously beat Gonzaga, which is not easy to do. As we all know, Washington State's played really well. So there's a lot of teams in the Pac-12 that feel like, hey, we got a shot. We're certainly one of them, but we're not the only one. And I think it's going to be a great conference season. I look at what the football teams did in the Pac-12 the last year. It was a knockdown, drag out. fight, to the finish. And I think the basketball season is going to be the same way. We'll see who comes out on top.
Going forward, unlike Stanford and Cal, which are now going to have to figure out how we're going to get in the ACC, the other four figure out, okay, how are we going to be in the Big Ten? This is sort of like, this is old territory for Colorado. How much do you anticipate this being a much smoother transition into the Big 12 when that happens for next season?
Yeah, we certainly, my first year here at Colorado, we were in the Big 12. Now, the Big 12 then and the Big 12 now are different, obviously, with Texas and Oklahoma leaving. And, they brought some teams in this year with Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, Central Florida. So, but it's going to be, it's not going to be as big of an adjustment, I think, for us, maybe as it is for maybe the other schools that haven't gone through that transition, even though none of the players are around anymore. Some of the coaches are. I'm one of the few that is, but so we'll deal that when it comes next year. And this year, right now, we're just focused on finishing in the Pac-12 and making it a memorable season. Our first year in the Pac-12 was a memorable season. We won the tournament. 4 nights, 4 games in 4 nights. Hopefully, this last year in the Pac-12 can be a memorable one as well.
So, Tad, you're on the NABC board. There's so much happening. Latest with this court case allowing the transfers, the 2-time transfers, to sort of have this temporary waiver. We'll see how that plays out, over the next couple of weeks, if it holds. But in general, where are we right now with coaches having a seat, or at least watching what's happening with transfers, NIL, Charlie Baker's proposal? Who knows where that'll go in the next month or so, or maybe months or years, as the landscape really changes below your feet here.
Yeah. And Andy, if you want me to answer that question honestly, I feel like we're standing in quicksand and we're sinking, and there's nothing we can do about it because we're on the sidelines. And I really truly believe this, that we are where we are because of some of the mistakes that we've made.
Who's the we? Or the general we?
NCAA, college basketball coaches, college football coaches, college administrators, conference commissioners, all of us. We all have a stake in this game, or the games, if you talk about multiple sports. So we're all complicit in terms of where we are today. And the frustrating thing as a Division I college basketball coach today is I don't feel like our voices are heard. I don't think they've been heard, and that's frustrating. So there's a lot of frustrated coaches. I'm one of them. I'm not the only one by any means, but we're here because of our own doing, partly as basketball coaches, partly as administrators, partly as the NCAA. We all have to own where we are. And the reason that the government is in our business is because we couldn't handle our business. And that's unfortunate. And I knew 4 years ago, when you had NIL coming down the pike and you had the transfer decisions that were being made, when those two things collided and we made the decisions that we did as a organization with the transfer rules, which was our choice, combined with NIL, you've got it was like dynamite, and it's exploded, and that's where we are where we are today. Now, how do we get to where we need to get? Well, there's a lot of ways to that probably takes another hour to talk about those sorts of things. So I love this game. I love college athletics. I've been in it for 30 years. I'm disappointed with where we are, and I hope we can find a way out.
All right, so I got 2 things for you because we could talk for hours on this. One, what do you think is the most pressing topic that you would like to at least hear, some movement on in the after this season, in the off season before next season?
Transparency. Transparency with NIL, name, image, and likeness. Transparency with the transfer rules, and understanding that we're in this business to help young people, whether it's young men, young women, whatever the case may be. That's why we coach. That's why we do. Now the business has gotten obviously so big, but there's got to be a happy medium between allowing young people the opportunity to transfer and have freedom of movement and get out of difficult situations, but yet still have accountability to the decisions that they've made. And there's got to be, we got to come to a happy medium. And I felt like with the one-time transfer and then the second time transfer, you sit out. I felt like that was a happy medium. We've got the graduate transfers that are media eligible. So a kid now can transfer once, no penalty, transfer twice, sit out, graduate. He could transfer again. She could transfer again. To me, that's a happy medium. The judge that made this ruling obviously doesn't feel that way. They feel like they should be able to. And my question is, where does it stop? Because if you're going to be able to transfer year after year after year, why can't you transfer it the semester? Why can't you be playing for Colorado in November, December? Don't like your role. I'm going to go play for Oregon in January, February. Freedom of movement. Like, where does it stop? Should it stop there? I don't know. What does the judge think? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll know with trades.
Huh?
It's almost like trades.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Last thing, Tad, we're in a new era of the empowerment of the player, the student athlete. Not everything that coaches did 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago translates to today because of the empowerment, which can be a positive, obviously, for the student athlete to have their own voice. In what way have you had to adjust the way you manage the program, coach it in this new era where certainly student athletes have more freedom, more responsibility, more money, and a litany of things?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I haven't changed a whole lot. I mean, having a relationship with your players, making them understand that you care about them as human beings, as young people. You want them to graduate. You want what's best for them. You understand that, look, instead of a kid sticking it out, that was that guy that was your 12th or 13th man on your bench, in years past, they might have stuck it out and it might have turned out well for them, might not have, but they stuck it out. This year, in today's day and age, they're not going to stick it out. That's just it's just the nature of the business, so to speak. So, but in terms of how I approach, young people, it hasn't changed. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I still believe that to this day. They still want to be coached. The good kids from good families want to be held accountable. And that's what I see in today. Empowerment of players is great. The fact that players can now make money off their name, image, and likeness is great. But boy, they need to be held accountable at some point for the decisions that they make. I mean, Andy, think about this. They can have unlimited visits now. So a kid coming out of high school, kid that's transferring, unlimited visits. So theoretically, if you have unlimited visits, you should never make a mistake in choosing the school you go to, right? Theoretically. Now, we know kids are going to make mistakes. Coaches are going to make mistakes. So that's why the one-time transfer rule is in place. And I think even as coaches, we've kind of accepted that. But now you go to the second transfer, like, where does it stop?
Tad, I appreciate it. You guys are doing great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate you.